how is your Tuesday going? Is it terrific? Is it filled with challenges? If so, I want to hear about them, because some of you guys really found the post that I did the other day about, moving out of old energy to be really beneficial. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that. Really, it came from my heart because it's one of those things that we have to remember, that when we're growing and we're changing and we're evolving, that so much comes with it. We really do have this funky relationship with expectations. And sometimes we feel that when we're learning something new, we expect that everything just sort of like is wonderful and magical, and things are just going to sort themselves out, and we're going to reap the benefits of all the things that we learned. And the person that's teaching us, or the person that's coaching us, or the person that we're involved with, or our spouse, or whatever, is going to provide all of this validation and information for us, right? And so what happens is when we place the expectations in someone else's hands, we then make them responsible for our growth. Now, I ask you, how empowering does that feel? If you say, well, I can't grow unless my husband does this, or I can't grow because my boss is a jerk. I can't ever get past my resentment because my ex in the past abused me and violated me and robbed me. And so I'm always going to feel that I can't trust people. I'm always going to feel fill in the blank, whatever that may be, right? And so what happens when we kind of keep that story very ingrained in our mind is that we live that story. And we perpetuate the energy of that story. And when we perpetuate the energy of that story, our reality begins to sort of construct itself to match that internal energy that we're holding inside of our hearts, our bodies, and the story that we're playing in our mind. And then it reinforces our belief, because then we get to see the evidence of that. We're like, see? This is why I can't trust people. This is why I can't learn. This is why I don't feel good about myself. This is why I don't have self-esteem. This is why I don't have, again, fill in the blank, whatever that may be for you. So if you're finding that you've got some particular story that seems to be on loop that you just can't crack out of, or you just can't really create some type of shift in your perception, shift in your mindset, or even just feel differently about it, right? Sometimes we even have a particular expectation of what a shift is. And we talked about that. I've got a very small membership group that we do group coaching in. And one of the clients in there was like, I used to feel that at the beginning of this journey, like the shifts, like she's like, they were just like massive and mind blowing. And it's like, whoa, you could just almost feel like the earth shake when new information would come into my reality. And I said, yeah, it used to be the same thing for me. And now it's almost like this subtle kind of sliding effect, right? You've got this subtle sliding effect where you kind of slide into a different paradigm, a different reality, a different mindset, a different belief system. It's no longer kind of like, your guides or whatever knocking on your head saying, wake the heck up and smell the coffee, right? It's more of like this, yeah, I can see that actually serves my best interest far better than this old story now. So you kind of have like this molding of yourself. And what happens is that when we kind of go from the stages, and I hate these terms, but I'm just going to use them for simplicity's sake in here, is when we kind of go from being asleep. Again, I hate that term, but when we kind of go from like this level, and really the asleep term just indicates this level that we're operating in, the level of consciousness that we are aware of. So when we kind of are operating in that unconscious space, when we're on autopilot, when we're very reactionary to our environment, we're responding and very plugged in to society's expectations versus seeking the internal within, as kind of being asleep, right? That unconscious state of operation. But when we flip into and start moving into seeing that there's more, we want to discover more. Again, and I call it like a self-discovery process. And it's sort of like, the idea, if any of you guys have studied psychology or just read any kind of articles, it really is a self-discovery process to where you begin to question. You begin to question things that you've just been programmed to believe. You begin to question things that seem to be ordinary and normal up until now. Like things that you're like, you know what? I don't know if I really believe this anymore. I don't know if I want to feel like this anymore. I don't know if I want to be in this space anymore. I don't know if I want to have this particular physical makeup anymore. I don't know if I want to still feel stressed out every day anymore, right? You begin to question it. You begin to look at it through a different set of lenses. And what you're essentially doing is that you are expanding your conscious awareness. You're raising your vibrational state to be able to look at things from kind of like an elevated space within you. Right? It's not outside of you. You're still looking at it from within you. Everything's coming through you and for you and by you, as most of us do believe. So if you can really take that understanding, as simplistic as it is, like really hear me, if this is coming through you and by you and for you, then what does that mean for you specifically? If there's a particular challenge, obstacle, repeating story that you cannot break out of, the way to break out of it is to first realize, how and why is this serving me? I had my own stories, and there was a plethora of them, but I just worked through one very recently that I have this particular way that I live now. And so that particular way that I live now is I'm very much like listening to my intuition. It's very rare that I jump back up into my analytics and my logic. And that's something that I learned. I am very type A. I've got OCD tendencies. I am very linear sometimes in my thinking. Things have to have a structure. There's got to be strategy. I'm very that's how my mind has always operated. And it has always operated that way because it feels safe. And it feels very familiar to me, right? So the brain is always wanting to go into the mode of what is safe, what is certain, and what it can measure and calculate. And when we kind of move into a space to where we don't have anything to compare, we don't have anything to measure it to, the brain automatically goes to something and it's going to conjure something up for you. That is why I talked about in that last video and that last post of really giving yourself the tools and the reinforcements of your brain looking for the evidence of what you are now creating so it doesn't want to go. Look behind your shoulder and see what it was in the past and see what it was before so it brings up that energy to compare it to. Because you're really going to keep yourself in a space of limitation, in a space of lack, if it's consistently coming from that space. Does this make sense so far? And so as you're growing and as you are expanding, as you're sort of widening your view and expanding your consciousness, you're going to find that these old stories are not going to fit in your now reality. You're going to find yourself almost pulling your hair out if you keep trying to insert this old energy in this now present moment, this now reality. And now I'm speaking to you guys that consistently work on yourselves and consistently understand your emotional state. Really look at your feelings without being just very much a victim to your own state of being. This is like when you're looking at yourself man, I'm noticing a pattern. I've had anger for the last 9 days, or I've had irritation for the last 2 weeks, and I just want to choke my boss and I don't know what's going on, right? Really looking at it and putting yourself in a place of discernment so you understand what you're being presented with, because it's all for your growth. It's not to hold you back. It's not to push you down. It's not because you've done something wrong. It's to give you the opportunity to look through whatever it is that's going on so you can begin to continue to move forward on your path, so you can keep stepping forward. But every time you take that old story and those old behaviors, that old mindset, and you try to insert it in the now, you're going to realize that you are going to literally hit your head up against a wall. And it's going to feel like a brick wall. And it's going to feel bad. And it's going to feel frustrating. And it's going to feel like almost defeating. And you might even decide to insert the story of like, well, I just can't do this. I don't know if I am equipped. I do not know if I have the knowledge or the capabilities or the wisdom or the skills or the talents or the support or whatever to get through it, because that's the same energy of the old story. That defeat, that unawareness, that unconscious energy that you're pulling into your present is only going to make you more frustrated because it no longer belongs. Remember how I said before that when we're moving forward and we're discovering all that we're capable of and we're learning new things about ourselves, regardless of what you think, even if your mind's not quite attached to it, what happens is your cells are responding to that new information because it's a different frequency. It's a different energy and it's a different vibrational sequence than you once knew. You may not realize that because maybe there's nothing to compare it to. Maybe you're comparing it to like history class in high school or some college course that you took, but it's very different, right? Because it's personalized. You're inserting yourself in the driver's seat. You're inserting yourself as the creator, the director, the main star of the play. But if that's the case and you pull this old story to where you are not in the driver's seat and you are not the director and you are not the creator, and then you become like, oh my God, this play's just been constructed for me, it's not going to feel good because that's not how you're living anymore, right? You've just literally decided to invite in old energy that you've already made a declaration to the universe. I'm no longer available for this. I'm no longer available for this. And yet I keep going back to it and trying to drag it in here and trying to insert it. And when it's not working, I'm getting mad at myself and I'm telling myself that I can't do such and such. So if this is something that you're doing, look at it for what it actually is. It's actually a confirmation that you are growing and becoming the better and better and better and better and better version of yourself, raising your personal vibration and really strengthening your energy. And when you strengthen your energy, you begin to allow that energy to support your mindset and support your heart. And you've got to synchronize all of these effects, right? We can't be separated in our thinking and how we treat our body and how we allow our hearts to be able to guide us and hearing the voices of our spirit. And we can't look at it very different, right? We've really got to like bring ourselves into a place of personal harmony so we can find that fluid flow. We can find that kind of like intuitive, internal guidance system that kind of leads us along because we're leading with our energy. We are leading with our mind. We are leading with our heart and we're leading with our spirit. It's ours, right? We're not looking to attach to something else. We're not looking for someone to tell us what to do. We're not looking for the latest and greatest thing that's going to give us that confidence. We've got to find the confidence within. And if you are not finding it, ask yourself why. Why is it safe for me to believe that I don't have confidence? Why is it safe for me to believe that I don't have self-esteem? Why is it safe for me to believe that I don't have what I need to make it through it? Right? Tell yourself that it is safe and tell yourself that it is okay and tell yourself that you wouldn't be right here, right now, trying to evaluate it if you couldn't. Right? You've brought yourself to this space. This is divine synchronicity at its absolute finest. When you find yourself in a space where you're like, crap, I am stuck. I do not know what to do. All you're realizing is that your old mindset is trying to direct your now. And it is no longer available and you're no longer available for it. It is expired energy and it's no longer applicable in your reality. So the moment you tell yourself that story, realize, here we are. Here is the inception point to where worlds have now collided, and I get to choose to set that story down for good. And when I set that story down for good, now I get to decide what story I do want to lead with. What is actually going to serve me? What is going to be the thing that ignites that light inside of me? So much so that that is what I am leading with. So I want you guys to really play around with this today and see if there's anything that you're trying to drag old energy into the present and you're tricking yourself into believing that you can't do it. You don't have the skills, you don't have the talents, you don't have the energy, you don't have the capability. Or if you're tricking yourself into believing that something externally is holding you back, right? What is it? And ask yourself why you've given that thing that much power over you. And now I get it, guys. Like, there are many different circumstances to where we have extenuating circumstances. We've got variables that factor into our personal equation that can really be very heavy. I've had my own personal ones to where I thought, well, this one person, because they're abusing me and they're basically holding me into a state of panic consistently, they have more control over my life than I do. I can't get out. So I might as well just find something to keep myself safe and just fly under the radar. But is that absolutely true? Is it absolutely, absolutely, absolutely true for infinity and beyond that that is my final reality? It is only final if I believe that it is so. So if I can switch my reality and say, you know what? Not living like this anymore. I don't know what the future holds. All I know is that this right here, right now, is not going to carry forward another 3 minutes, another 5 minutes, another 10 minutes, whatever. So then I get to make my choice. So when it gets really, really hard and you really don't know what to do, just remind yourself that you actually do have the power of choice. And the power of choice is always going to open up a different vibration and a different vibrational reality that's going to present different possibilities to you. It is in the moments that you feel like you have no choice is when you feel stifled, you feel scared, you feel locked in, you feel closed in, and it feels like hopeless. But you've got to ask yourself, is this real and is this true? Okay? So I hope that that is going to resonate with some of you guys today. And I want you to look at it in a way too of when and where you're not feeling safe in your environment, in your relationships, in your daily life, to where you feel like you have to pull that old story in just because it's like this little security blanket, right? It's like a little security blanket. It's like this comfortable thing that's familiar. It's what you know. You kind of know how to play around in that energy. It's like just the thing that you're used to. Right? It doesn't mean that it's good for you. It doesn't mean that it's the only way. It just means that it is familiar. Maybe you've lived 10 years in fear and doubting yourself. And while it's so rocking painful to be in it, you still pull it in because it's comfortable. It's kind of like how you know yourself. So you've got to look at it and say, am I ready to shed the identity of that, what do they call it? Doubting Tom or something, doubtful Tom energy. Like, are you ready to shed that identity? And sometimes we're not ready to shed that old identity because the brain again wants to look for what identity am I actually going to become and latch on to. And if that's not been constructed yet, it's like, I'm not going to leave what I'm familiar with until I know that this other thing is like firm and solid and great and awesome and going to give me what I want. But that's not going to appear until you get out of this old energy, right? We've got to get out of the old energy first in order to move into that space that we can create from. We can create that new identity. We can create that new reality. We can create that new state of existence. But we must conjure up the courage to be brave enough to shed what is comfortable, what is known, what is familiar, so those old stories no longer have that power over us any longer, so we can write our new ones. So you've got to ask yourself too, like, when you're changing, you've got to change different things in your life. You've got to change your environment. You need to change the people that you're around until you decide that you're sturdy enough in yourself that you can interact in a way to where you are not compromising your integrity and you're not compromising your energetic state. It's really imperative to look at that. So if you're constantly like wondering like, ooh, what is this person going to say if I say this? Or, ooh, how is this person going to react if I say that? Or like, and you're really just wanting to come from a very diplomatic, authentic, integral space. If you're worried about what the other person is thinking, saying, or going to respond to, then you've got to ask yourself, like, why am I wanting to engage in this anyways? Because what you're noticing is the contrast of consciousness and contrast of energies, right? Because you're in a particular energetic state and that other individual is going to be in a different one. So you've got to surround yourself with a support system and people that are of the same thread. Because if you do not, you're going to find yourself like really struggling and having difficult conversations and feeling like it's all you, right? And it's not that it's everybody else. It's just that you're, finding mismatches. So you need to find things that are a match. It's just, basic law of attraction. And when you find that you're inserting yourself in a higher level kind of like, circle, support system, whatever, and you're finding that you're not resonating with it, you've got to dig in and ask yourself why. Why am I not resonating with this? Am I fearing change? Am I fearing I'm going to fail if I apply myself? Am I actually fearing success? What if I actually get to the point that I succeed? What if I actually get to the point that I shift so much, I don't even recognize myself anymore? What if I shift so much and hold my power in and actually use it to the point that I don't know what that's going to look like and I don't know what it's going to mean? Sometimes that is scary. Sometimes it's scary to even look at, oh my God, what if I succeed? I want you guys to ask yourself that. What if I actually take this information, utilize these tools, I heal, I change, I succeed? What is that going to mean for you? And for me, about 5 years ago, it meant that, oh my God, what am I going to work on? What am I going to utilize my time doing? If I actually succeed, what am I going to focus on? Because ever since I was little growing up, I was always solution based, right? Like very solution based thinking. Like, yo, you got a problem, I'll solve it, right? Vanilla ice. But so that's kind of like how I was looking at my reality. So everything, right? Because I was a people pleaser. I was the person that I wanted to be sure that I could be helpful for, like whatever. And so because of that, that was a very ingrained identity. That was an ingrained mindset. That was an ingrained energy. So if I actually embodied the teachings that I was learning through my psychology training, learning through all of these different energy modalities, life coaching things, all the things that I've taken and learned, if I actually implemented every single one and embodied these understandings, what does that mean for me? Oh, it means that I'm going to move ahead and I'm going to succeed. Oh my God, can I handle success? Right? So I would pump the brakes and do it just enough because I was comfortable being the student. I was comfortable learning. I was really comfortable being in the space of like, oh yeah, here's a problem. I'm going to apply it here. Okay, yep. Well, now there's another problem. It's like I didn't even see that I was growing. I wasn't like happy with these incremental gains, right? That's what I talked about on the talk that I did on my personal page, is that I wasn't happy with the incremental gains. It's like that perfectionism tendency was like, okay, good, that problem's done. Now it's highlighted this other fire over here. Let me go put this fire out. So I was very, very focused on like survival mechanisms. I wasn't thriving. I wasn't like really living through my truth and living through the energy that I wanted to live through. I was living through this up here, telling me what needed to be fixed, telling me what I needed to do next. And so success wasn't even on my radar, y'all. Like I wasn't even thinking like, yes, I'm going to be successful and I'm going to teach and I'm going to talk and I'm going to do all the amazing things. Like that was not even in my realm of reality. So I want to ask you guys, how often do you reinforce that belief and that reality that you're constructing that, yes, I can embody my own personal success. Yes, I can embody my own incremental gains. Yes, I can embody my things that I accomplish and that I am choosing to celebrate from within. And I choose to see it. I choose to see the goodness. I don't just choose to look at the things that need to be repaired and replaced and fixed and healed and whatever. Because I was really good at being busy. I wanted to be busy fixing this thing. I wanted to be busy resolving this issue. I wanted to be busy doing this thing over here. I wasn't even like understanding that what I was doing was I was like moving mountains from a vibrational standpoint. And once I got to that understanding that, oh my God, I am different. Woo! I got scared. I got real scared. And I was like, oh, I'm different. What does this mean? I don't know how to be in this space. I'm very used to fixing, and I'm very used to looking at the things that need to be fixed, and I'm very, very used to finding solutions, and I'm very used to pleasing other people. I'm very used to helping them with this and that and the other, and I'm very used to not being Holly. I'm very used to being everything that everyone wants me to be. But now that I moved into this space that I must become myself, oh, yikes. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know who I am. And so sometimes we get into that space that when we're busy healing and fixing, and we move into this space where we've really set down some of this heavy emotional baggage and we've raised our vibration, we've raised our consciousness, and we've expanded our energy. Ooh, we get to feel ourselves because we're not just like cloaking ourselves and everybody's everything. And sometimes that provokes fear because we don't know how to operate in this space. We're not used to it. It's unfamiliar. So when the brain perceives unfamiliar and that fear ignites, it's like, woo, I got to find something safe because this is unfamiliar, and usually unfamiliar means uncertain, and if uncertain means not quite safe. So then the brain wants to go to what is safe, what is familiar. And sometimes the brain confuses familiar with safety, and so it wants to go back and pull that old story and those old behaviors and those old ways of doing things and like, oh, remember all this familiar stuff? Remember? Okay, here you go. You're safe now. No. That is a trick that the mind is doing. It's doing it out of love. It wants to keep you safe, and it wants to keep you certain, and it wants to keep you nice and comfy. But it is not in your highest and best interest. So you've got to look at those moments to where when you feel like you've grown a lot, but then you look and you're like, wait, what's happening? That's your indication that you've changed, my friends. Embrace it and love it. And don't discount yourself. Don't keep looking for all the things that you're not. Look at what you are and what you're becoming and what you've moved away from. You've got to allow the vision to see the gap in between so you don't keep pulling that old energy into your reality. You don't keep pulling those old stories and those old ways of thinking in the now. You've got to widen that gap, right? And so you calibrate yourself to here so you can keep moving on, and then the gap from what you want and where you are begins to close. So you don't keep like shortening the gap from where you came from, right? If that gap stays really tight, Think about the gap from what you're wanting. It just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing further away, delaying your timeline. And again, there's never really right and wrong. It just kind of comes down to, are you in a space of harmony or disharmony with yourself, with your values, with your desires and your dreams?